Well, hello there, and thank you for tuning in to the Shameless Sex Podcast. I'm Amy, sex educator, somatic sex and relationship coach, and sex shop owner.
And I'm April, VP of an international high-end pleasure product company and boss queen sex toy mogul. We're best friends who make our own rules about who we are as sexual beings.
With everything from how to be a badass in the bedroom, to pussy praising, to top tips for bringing your relationship to the next level, we have something just for you.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. Today we're going to be talking about asking for what you want.
Asking for what you want.
Asking for what you want. How to ask for what you want. And let me just clarify that we haven't always been that great at asking for what we want in relationships, whether it's with new partners or partners we've been with for a long time, or even the business world, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But we've done a lot of work to get to where we are, and there's always more work to do. We're not perfect, but it really is a practice and a skill, and we'll go into the topic a little more later on kind of how to refine those skills. So, yeah, but before we do that...
it's...
It's the Sex Life Update. Woo!
Yay! News flash. So, Amy, I want you to go first.
Oh, I get to start first?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
On your Sex Life Update.
Oh, Sex Life Update. I actually haven't had sex in a while. Oh, wait, that's not true.
What's a while, though, for you?
I know. When I was going to say a while, I was going to think it was like a couple weeks, but that's not true at all. And we were just talking about this. How did I forget that? How did I forget? I don't know. Okay. It was memorable, too. It was good. It was good. Fun. Okay. Well, Sex Life Update. So as a single person who's kind of doing the dating thing, and I think I've said this before on a podcast, but I kind of throw the word dating around loosely. So dating to me, in my personal opinion, for myself, can actually mean, people that I'm just have friends with benefits relationships with, that I'm actually going out to dinners with, that we're curious if there's like longevity here, or if we actually know that there isn't, but we're just spending time together here and there. I usually wouldn't say I'm dating someone if I just hung out with them once and knew that there was nothing more there. So I'm dating a couple of people, and let's see. One person is someone that I've been intimate with before. We kind of have this awesome setup where, because we've known each other for many years, I would call it is more friends with benefits relationship. And we have this awesome arrangement where we just come over to their house and we get to share some loving, intimate touch that totally fulfills all my daddy issues, because I have daddy issues. So kind of playing into the daddy little girl dynamic, but not, when I say that's not familial, that might freak people out. It's not like he's my father and I'm his daughter. It's more like an energetic force of he's really playing into this strong, masculine, like I'm here to energetically take care of you. I got this. You can surrender to this.
And it helps that he's a daddy.
It's also a daddy too. He also has kids. So yes, and and it just flows really well. And we've known each other for a number of years, so it feels really safe, really. And he's so good at pampering. He's just like honoring and pampering. It's perfect, And then we have our playtime, and then we get to kind of like snuggle and just like talk and connect for hours after. It just feels so good. Like it just feels.
Is he available on?
I'll talk to him about that and see if he's available for that. So that's really fun, and I think it's really beautiful to have this relationship that's been set up in this, and there's a lot of open, honest transparency.
We decided to call it a lovership.
A lovership.
Yes. Because a relationship sounds super kind of heavy.
Like we're about to get married and have 4 kids.
It's a lovership. It's like, hey, you're loving me.
You're my lover. I'm your lover. Yeah. And it's kind of very open-ended lovership, right? It can mean so many different things.
So many things.
Yeah, that feels really good. And we have a lot of open, honest transparency about who we are and what we're doing. There's an understanding that we're just there to connect and share intimacy. We're not building anything. We're dating other people.
Clarity, which is like being, part of what this podcast is about, is being open and honest. That's awesome that you have that.
Yeah. And again, this is taking me a lot to get there. I haven't always been that good about the honest transparency about where I stand in this relationship. A lot of times I like to beat around the bush.
Oh, totally.
Like I don't want to hurt their feelings, so I'm not going to talk to them about the fact that I'm dating
because
other people.
It's not about you. You're afraid. It's like fearful of like what they'll do, the reaction, or like being maybe rejected or
they might not want to spend time with us anymore, or it might just hurt their feelings, or some people just want to avoid confrontation in general. Then it's not even like what it might do to the other person. It's just like, I don't even like having those conversations because they're hard.
I am completely used to be way more.
Which is again the topic of this podcast. Yeah,
we'll talk a lot about this soon.
So that's fun and exciting. And then there's someone else that I recently started dating. I went on a blind double date that was actually quite successful. So my friend, her partner set this blind double date up, and we went to a show. And since then, I've gone on a couple dates with this person, and it's really good. Where he's amazing because, again, he's early 40s, so he's got his game together. This is what I'm seeing about the dating men in their 40s. Just a lot less, they're a lot more comfortable with themselves.
Right.
And they've done a lot of work, spending a lot of time. There's a lot of less games, like
I would
no
say
games.
60-40 because there's some 40-somethings that are.
Yeah, not all of them.
No. You found some good ones.
I know 20-year-olds are more mature than some of the 40-year-olds I know. This is very true. Age is just a number, but this person has a lot of life experience and they're so good at speaking about sexuality without shame. We can talk about anything. Like when we were out at dinner on our second or third date, I asked him, I was like, what's your relationship preference style? Like your style of relationship preference? I mean, like monogamy, open relationships. I had heard that he had done the open thing before, and we can just openly go into these conversations without there being this discomfort of like, oh, we shouldn't talk about this. Also, we talked about like orientation because he's someone who doesn't just doesn't do the whole straight game. He doesn't use labels, but he definitely is more open-minded in terms of the genders that he's interested in.
Like the Kinsey scale. The Kinsey scale is a good indicator. Like they say no one is in the... Kinsey has this scale. It's from like the 50s, I think, where it determines people's sexuality, but humans never lay right in the middle. Most humans are somewhere in between on the Kinsey scale.
The gray area.
It's pretty rare to have somebody that's super just into the other sex 100%.
Yeah.
It's actually more rare than not. So
yeah. So I think that some, because I identify as a like mostly straight woman, some straight women would be a little uncomfortable dating someone that might identify more in like doesn't use the label bisexual, but more of like the open bisexual. I don't think he'd be pansexual, but something I would say more heteroflexible.
What's
like
pansexual? You should
pansexual
tell
would be kind of into anyone and everyone regardless of gender. It's just like
Peter Pan.
A body is a body. Yeah, Peter Pan. Yeah, he's pansexual. Yeah, and then bisexual. Most people know what bisexual is. Heteroflexible would be you gear more towards being heterosexual, so you're more interested in like the opposite gender of the gender that you identify with, and the flexibility means that you'll swing other ways on the occasion, like you're open to swinging other ways.
Maybe that's me.
You're heteroflexible.
Yeah, maybe.
I think you are heteroflexible.
Yeah,
I like that title. I think it's cute.
I like it too. Yeah. I totally.
Everyone, April's heteroflexible.
Wear that proudly on a t-shirt.
And I call myself painfully straight. It's so painful.
No.
Because heteroflexible sounds like so much more fun. And
sounds
there's so
like
much
I'm
more...
like doing backflips, like wee.
Yeah, she's a gymnast. Cirque du Soleil over here. So I'm excited about it. And some of my favorite porn to watch is I really like gay porn. I love like man-on-man gay porn because I love...
I'm strictly like when I watch porn, it's threesomes and it's 2 female bodies and 1 male body.
That's very heteroflexible of you.
Yeah.
And mine's like the more cock, the better. Yeah. So this is fun. We're just getting to know each other, and yeah, that's exciting. I think it's like my latest update. It feels good. I feel really free. I feel like there's no expectations in the people I'm spending time with.
It's good.
It feels
You've
good.
got 2 on the tier 2?
Let's see. What tier 2? I think let's see. What was the tiers again? Remind me.
Tier 1, this is something that I just created on our last podcast because it does make so much sense. But tier 1's like your first string if you're into sports, which I'm not, but that's what I could imagine. Where it's like your go-to, the ones that you keep cycling through like a revolving door. Tier 2's the ones that sometimes it's just 1, maybe 2 times. You call them when there's no tier 1 available.
The ones that you have less. It's not that you're not interested, but they're not like your first thought.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, I really...
It's convenient. Sometimes when you've had too much to drink, maybe you hit them up.
So maybe there's just like less alignment with that person. It's not,
right.
So we're not speaking like there's something bad about that person. Just we have less alignment with them, and
it's probably pretty subconscious. So
Yeah.
when people are tier 1 to tier 2,
like an energetic.
then you
force.
have tier 3.
As April called, this is like your pity, which we don't have any tier 3s.
No, there's no tier 3s, not at this moment, but
Yeah.
you never know. So those are in my head, those are the tiers. What I cycle through. Maybe people aren't relating to that, but I just got back from Las Vegas, as you probably maybe can hear in my voice.
Vegas takes your soul away, everyone.
It does. Well, I was there for 6 days.
Oh, Jesus.
So it was really intense, but I was at a trade show, a lingerie convention. So I was doing work, but I did go there with one of my tier 1 and some friends. But I have been hanging out with this guy on and off for about a year, but mostly off because we lived in different cities. 'Cause I moved to Santa Cruz from LA not too long ago. So we lived in different cities. But, as a side note, I will say, like, I had feelings for this person, which will tie into this podcast, but in the beginning. And then he just sort of, not communicating what I wanted, he just sort of blew me off in a way that I felt very strange about. So I was like feeling rejected and not putting out there what I wanted. But
I remember kind of coaching you through that at times when he would like not, you would have some conversations, then he would kind of disappear for a week, and you're like, what should I do?
And then he'd come back hot and heavy and say things to me that were pretty like relationshipy, and so I went.
I've been thinking about you.
Oh, totally, like,
girl, how you doing?
Yeah. So, yes, that's how I read the text messages.
And I remember you were considering during that time. This was a while ago, maybe like 6 months ago or something. And you were almost like, should I play the game? Should I not? How should I respond? Should I not respond? And then we had agreed, like fuck the game. Like, let's be real. Let's be real about how.
Which took me a while to do. Mm-hmm. So now I'm in this space of fuck the game. And I said, you can't hustle a hustler, yeah. So basically I've been really clear with him, and now we're having a lot of fun. And the funny thing is the tables have sort of turned, because I just shut out any possibility of being committal with him. I just basically been clear to the point where I said, I'm not ready for this. I need some time. But I want to have as much fun as possible. And you have an ideal situation, because I'm not asking any questions about what you're doing. Have fun. If I'm not there, do whatever you want. There's no questions.
Wear a condom.
And I'm wearing, oh my gosh, like religious. We went through 12 condoms in 2 days.
Oh, awesome.
In Vegas. It was so fun. Yeah. So this guy I'm having a lot of fun with, and maybe it will turn into something eventually, but for me right now, I've been clear and I've been getting good results about that. And I'll talk about that more when we get in depth with our podcast and other things as well. Well, and then I have this other guy. So I had major great sex all weekend long, including and up until yesterday morning, which was fun. Like, we have very connective, fun sex. And I think that's also why I have been keeping him in my space for so long, because
Tier 1 status.
To my 1 status, because our sex is universally really, really connected and fun. And he knows how to please my needs. And let's see. The tier 2 is gone. He's in Bali. Like, everyone is in Bali right now.
Bali is so in right now.
Right. But he's been sending me little messages, which have been nice.
Miss you.
Yeah,
Thinking
miss
of
you. And
wish you were here.
Totally. And so that's kind of nice to hear. And I have a very clear situation with him as well, which we'll also talk about later. But so I haven't seen him in a couple of weeks, because he left, and he's going to be gone for, I think, like another week or two. Yeah. So we'll see what happens when he returns, where the sex goes from there. Woo. He's pretty good with the yield cunnilingus.
Oh, he's got some skills in the mouth department.
For like a long time, just down there for days.
Pussy praising. You know how we feel about that.
But he has like a massively huge cock that I can barely fit in my mouth. So I get like.
So you're not returning the favors? No.
No, I do, but I just like had to prep myself, stretch out my, do some heavy yawning before he comes over.
Do you have TMJ? Don't you have like a jaw pop thing?
I do, but that does not help me. No. It actually kind of hinders.
It gets in the way. So that'll be another podcast when we talk about how to suck the dick.
I also want to find a guy right now that wants to try my sex toy line, because I work for this brand called Hot Octopus, and it's a couples vibe, and I haven't been able to use it yet because I don't know. It didn't come up, and now I'm like really motivated to have use it with a dude that I just meet newly to see what the reaction is. Yeah.
So like the very first time you hook up, you just whip it out and you're like,
yes, and see the reaction and be like, great face.
You will all be hearing about how that reaction goes in a podcast in a couple weeks. So get ready. All right, well, let's get into our topic. So asking for what you want. And I just want to to kind of clarify, we're actually teaching a workshop at a festival in late August, on August 22nd. It's Symbiosis Oregon Eclipse Festival up in Oregon. And we are teaching a workshop called Erotic Superstar, Step Into Your Power. And it's kind of all about this, and there's so much more to it, but really about how to get clear on what we want, how to ask the right questions.
What tools to use to get those to the place that you want.
Yeah, undoing the layers of shame so that we can really get clear on what it is that we want and how to ask for it and to step into our power and have better, more connected sex through that. And it also ties to business and a lot of things. You know, they're all so connected.
Right. Mm-hmm. Relationships in general, all sorts of things.
Yeah. So how about, let's see. April, tell us your story about your journey on how you got better at asking for what you want.
So, well, I've done a lot of work just to start off with. I've read so many amazing books that I can actually recommend that have really helped me get clear. But, you know, really, so back when I started, my relationship life, which was 13 years ago, I was in a relationship, a really lovely relationship. It lasted for 6 years, and then I met my ex-husband. Now he's my ex-husband. He was my husband, but who I was with for 7 years. And through those relationships, I realized that I sort of adapted wholly to my partnerships. I never really would do what I want. For instance, I'll give you an example. My ex-boyfriend, he really wanted to move to California. So I was like, okay, great. I always wanted to teach English abroad in Thailand and live in like Korea and live kind of this international life. And then I wanted to do the Peace Corps. I had a ticket to Ghana to go and do the Peace Corps.
Oh, I remember that.
Yes. Yeah. And I decided, because my partner, and that's what I really wanted. That's what I always wanted, because my partner at the time was saying to me, no, don't go. We won't be together. I don't know if we can last through this. Just stay here. I said, I just kind of bent my needs and said, okay, I'll stay. I love you. This is what I need. I'll totally stay. And then I did the same thing with my ex-husband. He wanted me to move. I lived in Israel with him, which was great. I wanted to move back, so I left. And the moment that I said, look, I don't know if this is going to work culturally, he moved, and then it was like, we need to get married. We need to do all of these things. And I said, I never wanted to get married, but I did it.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like putting your own needs on the back burner. And
it was like that for years and years. Finally, and I've worked through this. I had shame in this, but I'm working through it still. I had an affair.
Oh, yeah. And, let's just clarify that affairs are a lot more common. Affairs and cheating is such and we're not necessarily condoning, like, yeah, everyone should do it. It's totally awesome. But they're happening out of usually because something's missing. Right. And there's like a communication breakdown or like layers and layers and layers of resentment that couples can't get through, and people start to seek, and there's plenty of reasons why affairs happen, but they start to seek outside sources, outside people to kind of fulfill these needs of what's not getting met there. And so it's not the blaming game. We're not talking about like, there's no victims here. We're not blaming the partner for not showing up. It's just usually there's a reason. It's usually not just like people are being careless and the grass is always greener, which does happen, but it's usually not just that.
Well, precisely. And it's taken me a while to come to terms with why I had the affair, because there was so much guilt. I hurt my ex-husband at the time. I totally hurt him, and there was a lot of blame in that. And so I have worked through it. But it was the trigger to our separation and a divorce. And honestly, I have to tell you, now looking back, I am much, 100% better, and it was meant to be. But I started then asking for what I wanted. Right then, after I separated, I kind of distanced myself from his needs, because I always fulfilled his needs. Of course, he was supportive. It wasn't just me like all the time, kind of adhering to his terms or anything. It was a relationship. There's two people. But I did forget about what I wanted. My career sort of was on hold for a while because I couldn't do what I needed to do because he would get needy and need more of me. So now let's fast forward to present time. I've been separated from my husband for about a year and a couple of months. and I was doing major work. I mean, I was in therapy for a while, obviously, which I have no shame in therapy. I think
Therapy's awesome.
I didn't do therapy at all ever in my life before this happened, but it's been the one thing that's really given me the tools that I need to get through a hard time. I'm not in therapy anymore, but
it's always there if you need it.
it's there if I need it. And I do read books all the time. Like I call them self-development books that really
Not self-help.
not self-help.
Too much of a trigger word.
Well, I think that just has a lot of stigma behind it. And I think about it as I am developing myself. So I've been asking for what I wanted now for the last year, like fully getting just in charge and putting it into my full frontal.
Full frontal.
And it has been amazing. Like my career has shifted. I started working for Hot Octopus this year, and it's been a dream job for me. Before I was working at a company where I wasn't asking for what I wanted, and it was a completely different situation. And now I just put things out there, and I am firm about it, and I have been getting what I wanted. And the same with relationships, and with friendships, and with loverships. I've been just clear about what I want.
Oh, yeah. That's beautiful. Cool. Thank you for sharing.
I can give more examples, but I think now I've been talking for a while.
That's good. I'll take over now.
Thank you.
So let's see. Well, I'll talk about me. So, I definitely have not always been good at asking for what I want. It's definitely a learned skill, and it's been a journey. I identify as something, which I think you are too, like a caretaker, caregiver, kind of like that archetype where,
a fixer. I'm a
fixer. Yeah, major fixers. I think as a fixer caretaker, we have the ability to get into kind of like a codependent relationship a little bit, pretty easily. I've recently noticed that my last relationship with this person who's like my total kryptonite, who I was with for 3 years, that I was in a codependent space. I didn't really know I was during it. And in a codependent space, I found that I wasn't really asking for what I want because I thought that I was going to lose love if I did. So it was kind of a lot of taking care of this other person's needs, what they wanted. And, relationships to me they're a constant negotiation. We're negotiating our needs. What are your needs? What are my needs? And how can we meet in the middle? There's it's compromise. And then, but the more important piece is negotiation. Sometimes we can't meet in the middle, right? Sometimes one person's getting more of their needs met than the other. Sometimes people don't get their needs met, but it still is always a constant negotiation and conversation. Can
I interject one thing? I had something great to say on that level of that the compromise / negotiation. Each situation that you get into, and this is a book that I read called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's such a great book, but not only for career, but for relationships, for if you're a parent, if you're anything. But one thing that they talk about in the book is that compromise is the lowest level of win-win, and everything in life is a negotiation, right? You should always, in each interaction that you have, create a win-win. And that means that if you can't make the deal or close the deal, or even if you're disagreeing about something, you should walk away until you can create a win-win. And it's such an amazing way to look at life. And that's, for me, been so helpful when you feel like it's a lose-win or a win-lose, something's missing. You need to kind of go back and change the situation, negotiate, talk about it, figure out how you can create a win-win. Not you're supposed to walk away from your partnership, but if you're disagreeing about a child or you're disagreeing about not going on this trip versus going on this trip, you always have to find a commonality, a common ground, and create a win-win. Understand fully the other person's perspective so you can describe it to them better than they could. And that's also another tool to use. That's really, really interesting. But I didn't mean to interject, but win-win. The win-win is huge.
And I agree with that it is this negotiation to, I totally hear you on that. And I think with relationships, this is one of the things that to understand, though, in regards to getting a win-win, we want to strive for that, but sometimes it doesn't work that way, right? Like sometimes one person doesn't get what they want, and this is just kind of a part of it. And I think it's one thing to look at it in relationships. If that's happening more often than not, one person's getting what they want all the time, and the other person's just always compromising, negotiating themselves out of what they want. they're not getting the win-win for them, for themselves. They're not getting to experience that. That's something to look at, because I mean, there are conflicts in relationship that come up where win-wins, I think, aren't always on the table.
Well, I think that the clearer that you can get with your partner, though, about what you want and be like, this is really important for me, because this is something that I know in my next relationship, I'm going to be very clear about. I want both of us to have a win-win or compromise, which is the lowest form of win-win. So maybe you feel like you're giving up a tiny portion of something, but it should always feel like you just closed a deal. You just bought a house, No.
She's a businesswoman, everyone, a businesswoman.
I just think that that's been a really powerful switch in my brain that has been super effective for me. And I used to sort of think that in my relationship that just a small example, my ex-husband would really want to go to a movie. And it was all the time. I want to go to a movie. And I was like, I don't want to go to a movie. I want to go out to a nice dinner. And he wasn't a foodie. I love food. And I would always felt like it was a win-lose because he was winning. I was like, fine, I would go to another action movie. How many Mission Impossible movies can I see? So because I wasn't clear to say, hey, I really love going out to dinner. How about tonight we do that and then we go to a movie? Is that possible? I want to go to a fancy-ass restaurant. I want to be pampered a little bit.
I want to talk and connect.
Yes, I want to connect. And that would have been, but instead I said, okay, yeah, let's go to a movie, because he didn't want to do the dinner thing. And that's like a really small example, but you can turn that into a lot of different situations with friendships too, where you have a friend that always dictates what you do. I've started kind of creating the win-win space with those friends as well.
Are you trying to do that with me? Am I dictating everything?
Never.
She's brainwashing me. It's manipulation, everyone.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about empowered language on that note then, because
good topic.
Yeah, empowered language is a really important piece, and I know that people throw empowered is another one of those like spiritual words, more spiritual than you, bro. Like, what does empowerment mean? And to me, empowerment really means speaking from the self, like really speaking from our wants, our needs, our desires, as opposed to speaking externally like you. So empowerment really requires spending time and getting clear on who we are, what it is that we want, what it is that we desire, and speaking from that place. So in a negotiation in relationship, whatever relationship is, business, a lover, a partner, a friend, if there's something that you want to bring up, to speak about, to say, this is something that I desire. I want to, like you're saying, I would like to go out to dinner. Speaking from the I space.
I would like to be on top tonight.
I would like to be on top tonight, yeah.
We always do it missionary.
So.
I want anal.
Give it to me now.
I want it.
So speaking from that, getting clear on that. What is it that I want? And then speaking from that, as opposed to you always do this. You this,
right.
We always do it your way. We always do a missionary. Instead of like, I've been thinking lately, I've been doing a lot of work on myself, and I'm really feeling like I'd love to be on top more.
Right.
And speaking from the me. And I know that we throw in the whole thing about like using I statements, and but there's truth to it. I statements and speaking from what we feel, as opposed to speaking externally about essentially telling someone about what they're doing and how they feel.
And also, it's so easy to get into the don't state of mind. People tell you what they don't want all the time. And listen, you can hear it clear. I listen to it all the time in society, or when I'm in meetings, or when I'm talking to one of my loverships. And when they say, I don't want people to think this, or I don't want this, I said, what do you want? And every time I hear the don't, I ask for the do. I said, change it. What do you want? You've told me 3 times what you don't want, but if you're not clear on what you do want, you're never going to get it. And this does come, again, from the law of attraction, kind of attracting what you want in your life. But that stuff is real. Einstein used it. Lincoln used it. I mean, there are people that are using it every day, the power of manifestation. It's real stuff. I am the optimal manifester. I have learned how to do it so well, and it's all just shifting your mind, being positive, attracting what you want. So change your don't to your do's. If you want something from your partner, or you want something from your career, say it in a do state of mind.
Yeah. And on that note, I'll also talk about positive reinforcement, because I often get a lot of questions about, how do we actually ask for what do we want in the bedroom? And I have this whole thing about positive reinforcement that I call give them a cookie.
A cookie.
So an example of this would be if someone, say they're rubbing your breasts and your nipples and they're rubbing really hard and vigorously and you're like, this is not what my breasts and nipples like. This feels terrible. Instead of saying, you always do it the wrong way, or that hurts, or instead of just
don't do that,
ouch, yeah, whatever it is.
Amy and I can role play.
Yeah, well,
rub my nipples, Amy, rub them.
Okay, rubbing the nipples. I'm rubbing nipples. No, not like that. And you are entitled to your yeses and your nos. I mean, this is another part of that empowered language is. If you feel a yes, you are entitled to speaking your yes. And if you feel no, please speak your no. Anytime we don't speak our no, or when we're getting like a big maybe that's leaning more towards a no, and we're kind of conforming, we can actually create trauma in the body, especially when it comes to touch. Like our bodies can actually numb out in places when we conform and receive touch that we're getting a no on, but we're not actually speaking our mind. So there's the fear of speaking our no that they might shut down, they might not love us. We just want touch in general, so we'll take whatever touch we can get, but that can really create some trauma. So a way to really convey what it is that we want without maybe shaming someone or hurting their feelings or making them feel like they're inadequate or not enough is to use positive reinforcement. So it's kind of like a two-piece statement. The first thing is you compliment something. So that's the positive reinforcement piece.
I really love when you touch my nipples.
That's the first piece, yes. And then the second piece is the actual critique. And it starts with the and, not a but. And I'd really love it if you touch them softer and slower.
I'd really love if you touched my butthole.
All right, that's a little extreme.
Why? No, I do like that.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good.
Okay,
I mean, I love butthole touch too. That's fine. Yeah, but so essentially you're kind of critiquing things. So
or you could say, how about, does this work, Amy? I really love when you touch my nipples, but
no buts.
Oh, and see, this is work.
That's why I'm teaching her. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I mean, you can have your butt touched, but just
I
no
love
butts.
when you touch my nipples and at the same time my clitoris.
Yes. So you're
that worked?
You can totally do it.
Okay, I'm using that tonight.
So here. This is the example. Let's break it down. To make it really simple. Someone's touching your nipples. They're touching them a little too hard and fast for your liking. Maybe you absolutely hate it. Maybe it's absolutely terrible. But instead of saying this is absolutely terrible or you're doing it wrong, you say something general. I love when you touch my breasts because that's general. Hopefully, you probably do love when they touch your breasts. And what I love even more is if you went softer or slower or maybe switched up to them. Or suck on them. Yeah, whatever it is. Or another example is someone is giving you a hand job, rubbing your cock, and they're just kind of squeezing really tight. It's a little bit too much. And you're like, this is not feeling good. Compliment on that. Like, I love your hands around my cock. And what I'd love even more is if you went a little softer and slower or added a little more lube.
Putting out what you want.
And so I call this giving them a cookie because the cookie is the positive reinforcement. You're complimenting them. And that kind of becomes like what their subconscious can hear. So it's like, oh, I'm doing a good job. I got a dog bone. Yay. This applies to all people. They're on the dog bone scale here. And then the critique comes after with the and then they feel like I'm doing a good job and now I have this critique and they're more inclined to kind of step up their game because they don't go into their dark hole of shame feeling like they're a poor performer.
That really does tie in, though, to what we just talked about, putting out what you do want versus what you don't want. If you say, don't touch me there, that's going to, again, shame them.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So turn your don'ts into do's. That is a huge takeaway from this podcast. I think that has helped me immensely in all aspects of my life. And I'm constantly I'm trying to help other people get into the do mindset. And I'm conscious of it fully when I speak. I think that really is that empowered language. Again, putting out the me. And that's another thing that I think we should talk about is putting out when you're in maybe a state of conflict with your whoever, lover, boss, it doesn't matter. When you start pushing the blame, which is really easy to do, you make me feel this way. You did
I feel this way because of you.
Yes. That's not empowered language. Take it from I feel this way because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And own your feelings and be aware of them and come and no one you are in charge of how you feel. No one can make you feel a certain way. You feel that way because of a certain action or exchange.
Well, and that's that vulnerability piece too, is it requires strength in tapping into and embracing your vulnerability, right? So I feel sad, I feel hurt, I feel abandoned, I feel unimportant. And these are all empowered statements, and they don't sound like that because you're like, oh, those are shitty feelings. But it's empowered because it's taking ownership of how you feel, as opposed to you make me feel abandoned, you make me feel unimportant. That there's a big distinction there in the language and the effect of what it's going to do to the person you're talking to.
Right, and practice switching that. When you hear yourself putting the blame on someone else, practice taking that responsibility back, and I think that has helped me. Sometimes I get into the habitual state of going into that kind of shift of you did this, and then I'm like, wait a second, right? Yeah. And then I change it back. My previous relationships, we were really good at blaming each other, and I wasn't empowered at all enough to realize then that was happening. And
you don't really get anywhere when you do that. People just get a whole bunch of wounded little children.
It's cyclic and it's toxic, and you have to kind of shift that and remember to take the blame back, or don't blame at all. Don't shame, don't blame. Oh, there's a don't game.
Oh, God,
do be shame-free.
Yeah.
Do take responsibility.
Do use positive reinforcement.
Yes.
One other thing I really want to talk about in terms of asking for what we want is important questions. And so a lot of times when I'm working with clients and talking to people about what it is what do you want? How does your body like to be touched? What is it that you desire? A lot of people are like, I have no fucking idea. And it's almost this like crazy broad question that drives them nuts, because it's a lot. There's a lot of reasons why. Maybe they're disconnected from their bodies based on trauma, or they're really stressed out, or it's shifted. What you used to want has changed based on life circumstance, or maybe your body's changed. But there's actually a more important question. It's not what do I want? It's how do I want to feel? So how do I want to feel as a sexual being? How do I want to feel in my relationship when I'm touched or being touched? How do I want to feel when I'm having sex? Much more important than what do I actually want. And what we want is actually kind of like the surface level tools that we use to get how we want to feel. So how we want to feel, look at it as like the base of the foundation, and then the things of what we actually want, the little tools, they're kind of like above that get us into the deeper part of the foundation of what we're looking for. So what the core erotic theme suggests is that we get clear on how we want to feel as a sexual being. And the way that the core erotic thing works is, and I do this with clients all the time, is I'll have them kind of retell the story of either two to three fantasies, sexual experiences that they've had, that they've heard of, the porn that they watch, like the top hottest spank bank things are like, oh, that's the hottest thing I've ever seen or done. And they paint the picture. And so they'll tell me the story. And you have to be really descriptive. Who was there? What was the energy like? What was the room like? And you really...
What did it smell like?
What it smelled like? What it tastes like? Ooh. Was there like any sexy...
I'm getting there. I'm getting in it. I'm doing this right now.
She's doing it right now, yeah. And I love this exercise. And it's really like you're writing a little erotica novel. And you do 2 to 3 of them. And so I'll have my clients, and I do this with friends and even partners sometimes. And what we look for is the theme of how you wanted to feel in each of those fantasies. And that is really important, because once you know how you want to feel, then you can figure out the core erotic movies. And the movies are the kind of more the surface level, like how do we want, how, or what do I want? They're like just the little avenues of how we get the feeling. So an example of this for me, so if I name my top 2 to 3 fantasies, one of my fantasies is a big, which you kind of figured out earlier because I talked about this daddy little girl theme. It has this kind of dominant submission thing where I'm in a submissive role, my very strong masculine partner's in this dominant role, and they are really taking initiative, like taking over the whole scene. Like, and one of my spank bank materials is like them with me bent over on their knee and them like either spanking me,
nice.
telling me I'm a good little girl or bad little girl or dirty little slut or whatever that is, and threatening me with some like anal play. Like, if you do this, I'm going to do this to your ass. Like,
that's
that
pretty
kind
hot.
of super hot. And so that's one of my movies. One of my other movies is very tantric, connected. Me and my masculine, again, very like masculine, strong partner, we're having this very connected tantric sex. It's not like an SM kind of kink, dominant submission. And what's happening is there is this really great energetic exchange where they're still really taking control, but like holding this divine masculine space for me. You know, they're like, whatever flows through, if I have like crygasms or if I'm like gushing fluids all over the place, they're like, I got this. This is beautiful. Like I'm holding this space for you. You're a beautiful goddess, and you can surrender to me. So they're very different. If you look for the theme in those ones, for me, the theme that I identify with is this feeling of being taken care of. It's not like I'm going to buy you gifts and take care of you in that way, or like buy you a house and feed you. It's energetically, I'm here to take care of you. Like you can surrender into me. You're safe. I got this. And fun fact about core erotic themes, they come from our childhood.
Right.
So if
mine's feeling special. Remember we did this before. Mine is feeling special.
Yeah, and so if you look at this, like for me, and we can ask you where yours came from. For me, my dad was very physically present, but he was not energetically or emotionally present. You know, I couldn't come to him with my tears. He would laugh in my face. So I'm kind of fulfilling my daddy issues, this thing that was missing in my childhood in my erotic life. And you do you want to comment on yours? Why you need to feel special with a lot of the men? I mean,
well, I think mine's related to my brother. This is an obviously non-sexual way, but he was like the only male figure that I really had present in my life, and he was always like the because my father was not really present at all. My parents divorced when I was like 5. And so he just wasn't there. But my brother was always the golden child. He was always the one that was...
He was the special one.
He was the special one. And I don't know how it came about. Like Amy and I did this practice together before, and this is how I knew that she kind of nailed it with you want to feel special. And so I relate it back to that. Who knows if that's where it comes from.
Well, your dad also wasn't very present in your life either. So
no, and he made my brother feel special all the time. But not me. And my grandparents did that as well. My mom did that as well. And he was always seeking, but he got a lot of negative attention too. So I was slowly, I don't know if that's the reason exactly. I haven't tapped in deeply to why I want to feel special, but I know now, and I say that now when I'm in
your partners.
Well, yeah. I actually, since I've recognized it, I've been more conscious of it. I'm like, I really do like feeling special, and
you are special.
I like them to tell me things like, you have a magic pussy. I'm like, that's right. Do I have a magic pussy?
Oh, what? Yeah.
And other things come up where I do want to feel like. And everybody does want to feel like they're the greatest or the best.
There's just one that people identify more with. The common ones are feeling special, feeling the best, feeling adored, honored, worshipped, taken care of, cherished. And it's a lot of them have a lot of overlap in terms of how they resonate, but usually for someone they'll have like one that really sticks with them, or maybe two that they really identify with.
I think I have 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What's your other one?
Feeling like I'm the best.
You are the best. Yeah. And so an example of someone that wants to feel the best is a lot of their fantasies or sexual experiences that they've had, or that are like their hottest ones ever. They're like what they're doing. They're giving 5 million orgasms to their partner. Like they're so good at what they do that they're usually people that get off on really pleasuring other people, like providing pleasure for other people. And if their partner doesn't have orgasms, quite often they actually don't feel that like the sex was that great because they weren't performing at their best.
It's totally, I'm like 50-50.
Yeah.
I am, because I go, it just depends on where I'm at with, and also depends on the partner. Because sometimes when I'm hooking up with a lot younger guys, I usually try to be like the teacher and just be like, I'm going to dominate you and show you what a woman's going to do. Like, and then
you're the best. You're so good
that
at
I'm
what
on
you
the
do.
best.
You're the
And then
educator.
when I'm with men, usually that are older, which I get into a role of, I want to feel special. I want to feel taken care of. I want to feel like I am the best that you've ever had, but something like this. This is where it goes. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
And then I think for looking at the people who want to feel the best, quite often, maybe might be the case for some of them in their childhood, mom or dad or whomever they were raised by, probably criticized them more than praising them. They were, instead of saying like, hey, daughter, you did a great job at that softball game. Instead, they were like, you could have done this, and this better.
Oh,
and
totally.
So and a lot of people get freaked out when we talk about core erotic thing, because I'm like, the way you are as a sexual being is very much related to your childhood. And they're like, no, I don't want to think about my parents as a sexual being, but it's so spot on. And it's really liberating to do this exercise with people, because then once they figure out how they want to feel. So say you're in a partnership, you know how you want to feel. So for me, I want to feel taken care of energetically. And I'm with a partner, and we do the same kind of exercise and figure out how they want to feel as their core erotic theme. When I'm with a partner who also wants to feel taken care of energetically, and so we both want to be like just like pampered and adored and in this kind of like submissive space, or just like energetically held, or whatever that is. That might actually be kind of conflicting. We can find ways to work together, and that's why it's good to get clear on how we want to feel. But it could also be conflicting because we both just might be laying there waiting for the other one to pet us and hold us, right? But there's a lot of themes that work really well together. And it doesn't mean that if your themes don't match that you can't date this person. It just means it's a topic for conversation, how we can negotiate so that we can both get our needs met. Because we need to feel like that. And
are there tools for finding out what your partner or lover or whoever, what their core erotic theme is?
This is the tool right here.
The tool is this.
Going through this.
Going through this process.
Sit down with them and do this whole process and try to figure out how they want to feel. So have them narrow down their top favorite fantasies, sexual experiences that they have. You have to be open to learning some really deep stuff about them. So if jealousy is a thing for you, you might need to check in with that one. But yeah, and then figure out how they want to feel, and then negotiate to get the feelings, to get the needs met there. This is the thing. So I can actually be in sexual relationships with people where the way I need to feel isn't always happening. Like, if I'm with someone who isn't making me feel taken care of, we can have good sex for like a week or two. But for it to be sustainable and like for longevity, for me to want to continue to have sex with them, I need to have that feeling. Okay. If that feeling's not there, I'm probably going to stop fucking them at some point. And I've had relationships where that was the case, where I was completely unaware of all of this and who what I wanted as a sexual being, how I wanted to feel. And I was in a long-term relationship where after 2 or 3 years we stopped having sex because we weren't making each other feel the way we wanted to feel. We didn't even really know what that was. And now when I look back at it, I'm like, oh yeah, we both just wanted to feel. We both had conflicting themes, and we didn't know how to work on that to negotiate. So if you're a single person, or if you're dating some people and it's newer, I highly suggest getting clear on how you want to feel, maybe seeing how they want to feel, and see if that they can work together, and if you can kind of negotiate to get those needs met, those feelings met. And then you can figure out what the movies are. I want to feel taken care of. What are some movies, some possibilities, things that we can do to make me feel that way? Okay, there's like the dominant submission. There's a deeply tantric, you holding this masculine space for me. I'm really seeing through this that I actually can't. It's probably not good for me to be in long-term relationships with people who can't hold that really strong masculine space, because at some point I feel like I really need that in order to have really deeply fulfilling sex.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's really eye-opening for people. So like moral of the story.
I'm going to try to do that with my
It's fun to do with your partner.
Right.
Yeah, tier one. And they're like, oh my God, they're psychoanalytic.
Right. I started getting into this after you and I spoke with the regular guy. And it went really strange. He wouldn't. So I want to try to. He wouldn't like get in touch with that. And I try to be like, "What's in your spank bank? Like, what do you think about?"
It's like we're not supposed to talk about this.
I know. So
there's a lot of shame in that. But
they're totally. Yeah. And I think that he came from a previous relationship that he was shamed a lot, and I think that he's working through some trauma. But I pretty
think
much
it's
like
hot when they talk. I love hearing those stories. Maybe not like the last person you had sex with yesterday and like all the things you did, but. I mean, I think hearing about someone's fantasies and...
Me too. Yeah. I mean, I used to not... when I was less empowered and less who I am now, I used to get really uncomfortable talking about sexual experiences that people had. And now I'm totally... They're interesting to me because it's creating less shame around people's previous experiences, being open. Maybe you'll learn something new if you just... address it and come to terms with it. It's okay. They're with you. They chose you now. So leave the jealousy or any of that thing behind and just embrace their stories.
Well, I think a lot of times people want to pretend like their partners weren't sexual before them. They're like,
right, but they were. Yeah, they learned all those things somehow.
Have a whole life. Or maybe they weren't. Maybe you're like 18 and still this is like your first partner. But for the most part, we have our sexual history. We've touched ourselves. We've been touched by other bodies, hopefully consensually, And this is just a part of our story. And so maybe you're your own authority. You get to choose how much information you want to share with your partner about your past and how much you're comfortable hearing from them. And in an exercise like this, being open to hearing about their fantasies or maybe some past experiences can be really beneficial.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it'll just help you grow stronger.
You might want to masturbate.
And it can be hot. Right. Talk about it again.
Tell me your fantasy
the
again.
Fantasy.
Oh my God.
I think what we'll do is we'll post some books, the books that we talked about in this podcast on our website, which is shamelesssex.com.
Ooh. Yep.
So we'll, and also some other books that might be helpful, whether it's about core erotic theme or empowerment or getting to a shame-free state of mind. We will give those tools to you.
Yeah. We'll definitely hook you up with some links. I think that's kind of...
We covered a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of information.
It's really a beautiful podcast.
Oh, so beautiful.
I feel so empowered.
April, you're the best and you're special.
Yay! Amy, I'm going to bend you over my leg right now.
Oh my God, anal threat. Okay, so now we're really hot and bothered, so we're going to leave you at that. Please join us again next week. And for more information, as we said, go to shamelesssex.com.
Thank you so much for joining us. We love each and every one of you.
Have a beautiful day. Like what you hear? Well, then head on over to shamelesssex.com for more podcasts and information on our latest happenings.